Humans were created as a slave species. Our purpose was simple: extract a rare earth material for the Anunnaki. They arrived on Earth from a world beyond our own. Their world was in crisis, and deep beneath the surface of this planet lay the resources they needed to survive. They turned to the primitive beings already walking the Earth. Using their own DNA, they transformed early humans into a new species, designed to work, obey, and serve. They created the first successful human, and then they created us. The Anunnaki became our rulers and teachers, shaping humanity in their image and guiding us for generations. Then, as suddenly as they arrived, they disappeared. Look at us now. Humanity is still digging into the earth, extracting gold and building vast civilizations, as if we are following instructions written into us from the very beginning. And in the 1970s, a respected author studied these ancient texts and concluded that the gods were real, lived for thousands of years, and we were engineered. And that raises a chilling question: were the Anunnaki ever really gone? And were Adam and Eve truly the first genetically altered human-alien hybrids? Let's find out. To understand who the Anunnaki were, we need to go back nearly 6,000 years to the first known civilization on Earth, known as the Sumerians. They built some of the earliest cities, developed agriculture, and created the first writing system. Instead of paper, they pressed symbols into wet clay tablets, and those tablets survived for thousands of years. When these tablets were translated, they revealed detailed accounts of creation, floods, kings, and a group of powerful beings known as the Anunnaki. The name is commonly understood to mean the offspring of Anu, Anu being god of the heavens. Among the most powerful Anunnaki were Enki, who helped create mankind, and Enlil, the ruler who governed humanity. These names appear repeatedly throughout the oldest known texts on Earth. It is said that the Anunnaki played a direct role in the creation of human beings. In the 1970s, a researcher and author named Zecharia Sitchin studied these ancient records and proposed something extraordinary, including knowledge of the planets in our solar system, even depicting Earth as the seventh planet when counting from the outer edge inward, which is correct. How did they even know this when we've only just worked out the number of planets only in the last 200 years?
How did they know, for example, that Earth is the seventh planet? That's what Earth was called, the seventh planet. Now we all know that Earth is the third planet, because from the Sun we say there's Mercury, Venus, and Earth. Now, if, however, you count from the outside in, if somebody who devised the system of numbering began with Pluto and said Pluto is number one. So all this evidence coming together led to the question which the Sumerians themselves have answered. And they said, those who had come from that planet, they told us.
The Anunnaki were not originally from Earth. They came from a distant world called Nibiru, a planet that follows a vast orbit around the Sun and returns to our part of the solar system every 3,600 years. The ancient records even had an explanation for why humans were made. The gods were burdened by labour and no longer wished to do the work themselves, so a new species was created to take over and humanity was created to serve. The question now is simple. What task was so important that the Anunnaki needed to create an entirely new species for? Hello?
450,000 years ago.
That is when the story begins. Nibiru was in crisis. Its atmosphere was deteriorating and life on the planet was under threat. To prevent environmental collapse, the Anunnaki needed enormous quantities of gold. When processed into a fine particulate layer, the gold was used to shield and restore the atmosphere, preserving the world. Earth contained exactly what they were looking for. What is odd is that Zecharia Sitchin believed that their home planet Nibiru and what we call today as Planet X are exactly the same planet.
You don't have the fear, I don't have the fear.
No, I don't.
But do you believe that this is what they saw is the 12th planet?
What I call the 12th planet, what they call Planet X, what
You're
they-
convinced they're one and the same.
Well, I would really be amazed if there are two unknown bodies. Amazed for two reasons. It would be a tremendous coincidence. And secondly, I believe so much in that the Sumerians knew what they were talking about. And if they said one more, I take their word for it.
The Anunnaki established settlements on Earth which they called Iridu, set up mining operations and began extracting gold on a massive scale. At first, the work was carried out by a lower ranking group known as the Igigi. They were brought over to Earth by the Anunnaki and assigned to the mines, where they spent thousands of years digging, transporting and processing the gold needed. The labour was relentless. The Igigi reached their breaking point and eventually rebelled. They laid down their tools and refused to continue. Nibiru still needed gold, but the mining had stopped, and so the Anunnaki gathered to find a solution. Enki proposed a solution that would change this planet forever. They would create a new species to do the work. They would combine their own genetic material with that of the primitive beings already living on Earth, producing a creature intelligent enough to understand instructions and strong enough to endure the labour. And the first successful result would be given a name you already know, Adamu. Enki began the process. It did not work the first time. Some of the creations could not survive, while others were unable to reproduce. Some of the beings were physically strong, but they lacked the intelligence and stability the Anunnaki needed. Finally, they achieved what they were looking for. A stable human being was called Adamu, and you already know that name, Adam. One human was not enough, so the Anunnaki created a female counterpart. Together, Adamu and the first woman became the foundation of a self-sustaining workforce. At this point, does this not all sound familiar to you? A man is created first, and a woman is created afterward. Together they become the ancestors of the human race. Thousands of years later, the same sequence appears in the book of Genesis as Adam and Eve. Unfortunately, there was no hint of a name of the woman counterpart besides Eve from the Bible, so let's just go with that. If that connection is real, then the story of Adam did not begin in the Bible. It began thousands of years earlier. Humanity was not born by chance, but were completely engineered. But the Anunnaki did more than just create us. They taught us how to build civilization itself. With Adamu and the first woman now able to reproduce, the population of Earth began to grow. But the Anunnaki did not create humanity and disappear. They stayed. They ruled over the Earth, and to early humans, the Anunnaki were more than leaders. They were living gods, beings with knowledge and abilities so advanced that they seemed divine. The Anunnaki taught mankind how to farm, how to irrigate crops, how to build cities, and how to organize society. They introduced writing, mathematics, astronomy, and law. Under their guidance, humanity transformed into the first great civilization. They also established the first systems of kingship and divine rule. Human leaders were appointed to govern on behalf of the Anunnaki, creating the earliest monarchies. Even temples were built in their honor, with priests carrying out their instructions. This is why the earliest cultures all speak of gods descending from the sky and bringing knowledge to mankind. They weren't seeing God, they were seeing a superior intelligent race. For generations, everything was proceeding according to plan, until everything changed. A catastrophe was coming, and one so devastating that it would wipe out nearly all of humanity and leave behind a story that survives to this day: the Great Flood. The growing human population became a problem. Mankind was multiplying rapidly and creating what the gods described as too much noise. Yep, in ancient texts, the Anunnaki literally called us noisy. I guess not much has changed. Anyway, at the same time, a far greater threat was approaching. Nibiru was nearing Earth once again in its 3,600-year orbit. Its passage would trigger catastrophic changes, including massive tidal waves and flooding on a scale unlike anything humanity has ever seen. Enlil made a decision. Humanity would not be warned. The flood would wipe the Earth clean and the experiment would come to an end. But not all of the Anunnaki agreed. So Enki, Enlil's brother, chose to intervene. He secretly warned a righteous man, instructing him to build a great vessel and preserve life through the coming catastrophe. Again, the story sounds like something we've all heard. A chosen man receives a warning, a great boat is built, animals and family members are brought on board. The waters rise and civilization is nearly erased. And then thousands of years later, this same sequence appears in the book of Genesis as the story of Noah. Before the Anunnaki departed, they did not leave humanity empty-handed. They passed on the knowledge that would allow civilization to rebuild and move forward. Human rulers were left to govern in their absence, preserving the systems that the Anunnaki had put in place. With that, the gods returned to Nibiru and humanity was left to continue on its own. Or so it seemed, because one question remains: did they leave us behind, or are they waiting for the right time to come back? Humanity continues to do exactly what it's designed to do. We dig into the earth, extract its resources, refine vast quantities of gold, and build increasingly complex civilizations. Gold remains one of the most valuable materials on the planet. It is used in electronics, satellites, medicine, and advanced technology, just as it was once said to be essential to preserving Nibiru itself. The stories also remain. Ancient clay tablets describe beings from heavens who created humans to perform labor. The first human, Adamu, bears a striking resemblance to Adam. The Great Flood survives in not only Mesopotamian texts and the Book of Genesis, but in practically every culture across the world. These cultures also remember gods who descended from the sky and shaped civilization. Today, many people believe we are still being watched. Reports of unidentified craft and unexplained aerial phenomena. There are countless reports of unexplained intervention, leading some to believe that an advanced intelligence is still watching humanity. If the Anunnaki created us, then they may not have abandoned their creation at all. They may simply be monitoring our progress, intervening only when necessary. Of course, there are other explanations. Many historians view the Anunnaki as mythological deities, and mainstream science explains human origins through evolution rather than intervention. But to them, these stories are symbolic, accounts created by ancient people trying to understand their world. And that may be true, but even after thousands of years, the central question remains: why do some of the oldest written records on Earth say that humanity was created to serve higher beings? And when you look at the world today, it's hard to ignore how familiar that purpose is.
3,600 years to our 1 year.
To our 1 year.
Does that really mean they do not age more than we do in 1 year in 3,600 years?
Yes, well, if you look here at Enki, in my estimate, he was about, I would say, 140 years old in their terms.
140 times 3,600?
3,600, right.
Is he alive today?
I don't know.
So perhaps the most unsettling possibility is not whether they will return, but maybe they never really left, and that humanity is still carrying out the task it was created to do.